family. This is Bob Z on Tidewater Waves.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming out, Bob. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's sunny outside. A little pollinated, but
Oh yeah.
no sunshine without rain.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So speaking of sunshine, it seems like things are opening back up. So,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, positive things. But we'll get right into it. Who is
Uh-huh.
Bob Z? Where you from?
I'm from. I always tell people I was born in Berkeley, but I grew up in Huntersville. I guess kind of like to kick my hood stats a little bit. It used to be, I guess, when I was growing up or in college, it wasn't necessarily a badge of honor. But as I've grown older, I learned to appreciate coming from a place where a lot of us, as kids, we just saw way too much.
Mm,
Saw quite a bit that we probably shouldn't have seen, but that was the way it was. So we, took those experiences and used them as learning experiences.
gotcha. So speaking of taking those experiences, how did that mold you into the person you are today, and just overcoming some of those plights?
Oh wow, I do. I try to do a lot of mentoring and working in the community. I mentor, young men, particularly on different things, anti-bullying, having the safe summer programs that I've instituted. But the way that affected me, people always look at those programs and say, "Wow, you're such a great guy." And I'm like, I don't know, hold on, I don't know if I want to wear that badge. Thank you, but the reason I do what I do is because I feel like I owe. It's guys that we come up with. I watch the show Snowfall a lot, and it was kind of like almost a tsunami of cocaine that just hit the neighborhood, and it affected, I don't know anybody that it didn't affect. So um, some of the guys died. Some of them, that I came up with, my crew, some of them end up doing 40 and 50 years. And so for me, it's not really like, it's like I have a depth of gratitude and, what do they say, paying your debt to society, not in the traditional sense where, I had to go in and serve time, but more of a way of giving back because, like I said, I feel like I owe.
Mm. Yeah. So speaking of that, I saw your last post talking about somebody calls you OG or Unc. You have that duty to put them on game and lead them down the right path.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been a matter, and that's when I take it like where I come from. I know some people get out at 7-Eleven if it's a whole crowd of young guys. I know some people that won't even get out. But for me, I kind of embrace that, and it's like I said, it's a responsibility. And this Unc thing, just recently, I guess it's like the last couple of years, I was like, huh? Who? It was like, my grandmother had 12 kids, and we have a big family, so I'm like, am I your uncle? but no, I learned to understand that as a way of, saying OG or, something like that. And I kind of embrace it. I embrace it because we do have a responsibility to pass down the knowledge that we've gained. So, like I said, a lot of times, particularly like, and I see some of my contemporaries or some of the guys, my age, and, they have almost a certain fear when they see the young guys, and it's like, for me, it's like, teaching opportunity, it's time to drop some knowledge, and let the guys know, what are your plans? What do you want to do? So that's kind of like where my feeling on that post. And I was hoping, I guess people say, I don't know who this is for, but I was hoping that, some of the people that I'm saying, we can't fear our youth, particularly our young men. We have to take ourselves back mentally to when we were craving knowledge and direction. Because sometimes I wish somebody had pulled me aside.
Yeah.
For some things. So
yeah, definitely. That's why it's important to have that, like you say, just history lessons and giving back, and like there's nothing new under the sun.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
People are saying that's what they say. Yeah, that's dope. And I'm like, seriously? That's what they were saying that, man, back in the late 60s, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, some of the rappers, I mean, you can hear in Run DMC and, Rakim and Eric B, they even I'll Be Sure is like, it's dope on a rope, so that's not a new phrase, but now it's like, the youngsters got it and they done ran with it. So it's amusing.
Yeah. So You also talked about teaching in the community sense, but you are also a professor, political science. You are
I am.
currently okay.
Political science, criminal justice, U.S. history, and public speaking. And it's funny, the story behind that is that I kept on, pursuing, educational pursuits. So I ended up with 3 master's degrees so far. And so I have a master's in criminal justice. So, that allows me to teach, on the undergrad level, criminal justice. So I teach criminal justice, and I teach U.S. history because I have a master's in public administration and a master's in communication. So I try to utilize, it's one thing to gain educational knowledge, but if you don't utilize it, then it just sits there and festers.
Yeah. So, that's I feel like great area to teach, like you say, public speaking. And that just kind of goes to the development and just knowing how to communicate. So, which one of those subjects that you teach is your favorite?
Well, see, it's always with me. When I first came out of high school, I wanted to go and get a political science degree. And then I wanted, and that's kind of like my first love, and then communications. So, one of the classes that I've taught and taught internships is political communications. Because if look now at even the 24-hour news cycles, MSNBC, CNN, I can't watch Fox. I got to be real with you. I just can't. I tried
like a lot of people have those sentiments.
I tried last night because they had the George Floyd verdict. So I tried to watch Fox for a minute, and they was like so mad. I was like, why y'all mad about that? That's crazy. But no. So back to my favorite. I think it's almost a draw, and between politics and communications. But then with the criminal justice piece, I used to work for this place called Second Chances, and Lord knows I didn't need another, master's degree, but I fell in love with that because my job was to find employment for people who were coming out of prison. So and if you can find, believe me, in that climate, probably about 5 years ago, trying to find, that's before they started doing all the restoration of rights and all that stuff, trying to find convicted felons, positions in employment, positions of employment, was difficult. And so I started looking at all the underlying issues that have to do with mass incarceration and, how do we end up here? Just a whole nother form of enslavement. So I was really just fell in love with the criminal justice, in the sense of a lot of people go in to be probation officers or maybe work in law enforcement, but I'm kind of the anti, to those, but I still want to work within the system to help alleviate some of the wrongs that have been done in the correction system. So that's how I kind of roll with that.
Okay. Yeah, I like how you put that working in the system to, really correct a lot of those things that are wrong or just backwards.
Right. One of the things I want to, trying to formulate this plan, I'm working on a program because nobody talks about it, but to me, it's like, it's like sexual assault in prison, prison rape. Everybody I talk to is like, man, that's just going to go on. And I'm like, well, it's something that shouldn't happen. It's not okay. And so, by never hearing anyone, people can go in and serve their time or serve their sentences, but, they have to be subjected to, prison rape and stuff like sexual assault in prison. I think is a topic that is I've never heard anybody, really rally against it. Any elected officials or any people who are in positions of power, wardens or anybody. It's something that just shouldn't be accepted. And I think it's accepted, the things that happen because, you lose, they take away the sense of humanity from a lot of people who are incarcerated. And that shouldn't be so. If the true goal of incarceration is rehabilitation, then it should really be, you can't go in and create these kind of things and do these kind of atrocities and then have people come out into society and expect them, not to have become animalized, you know what I mean, in such a awful way, and to suffer the traumas and abuses that they have in prison. So, you know, I'm kind of on that right now. Like, that's where the criminal justice angle took me, and it's like, well, I can still add the political piece to it because, you know, it's going to take legislation to do it, and communication. We can get that word out. So it's still all, you know, kind of like forming, you know, one goal, but using, you know, various disciplines to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of them things that are swept under the rug that people kind of don't really want to face. Just kind of let's just keep it how it is and keep it pushing.
Right, and I think that's insane. To just accept it. I mean, but everything was. I mean, if you look at it, everything was just accepted for a while. It's like, okay, even with like the new laws for marijuana, I grew up, you know, actually in the height of the civil rights era, and I was just thinking the other day, I grew up, you know, with Jim Crow is a word a lot of my young guys are throwing around. I guess they're saying, well, you know, we don't want to do Jim Crow 2021 with what's going on in Georgia. And I'm like, man, I grew up in Jim Crow. You know, Jim Crow ended in 1965, you know, and so growing up in this area, Hampton Roads, you know, I was kind of like post Jim Crow. I guess I probably was about 3 years old when it ended, but you know, it still lingered, the whole attitude, and a lot of times I still think that there's a big cloud of just despair, and like a lot of people might say Uncle Tom, but just, you know, I think a more technical phrase would be just that mentality, that subservient mentality that's almost over this area, and you know, they'll say crabs in the barrel, and I just, you know, try to, you know, I guess formalize that into a way of thinking that, you know, if I get mine, he can't get his, and I guess it's not enough pie, you know, on the table. But you know, that's just a fallacy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of those type of situations and topics that need to be, you know, unearthed pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So I do want to go back a little bit when you were talking about just what it took to get those degrees. And you also, you know, talked about just you graduated in, you know, 81 and didn't get your degree until 97.
Wow.
So
okay. You remember that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I try to do my little research.
That's pretty good. And the thing with that is that, and I graduated from high school in 81 and I got my first bachelor's degree. Didn't get it until 1997. And in between that, you know, I'm not a mathematician, but that's 16 years. And in between that time, life happened. I remember when I was 20 years old, my son was born, my oldest son, and I was a product of a relationship, I guess, outside of another relationship, where I was born and I didn't know who my father was. You know, I had a stepfather from the time I was 2, and so I just accepted that was my father. And then around 11, my mom was like, well, I want you to meet somebody. That's after her and my stepfather separated. And I was like, who? And she was like, this is your real father. And I was like, whoa. But anyway, so that caused me the greatest amount of trauma in my entire life, to find out who I thought was my father wasn't my father.
Yeah.
That was just like right from I was 12, and boom, I started selling weed, drinking 40s with the boys, and everything. Just, you know, I ain't care no more. I was like, okay, so this is what I'm being dealt with. And so when my son was born, you know, I wrote him a poem that, you know, just like, I promise you, child, you will have me. Because I didn't want, you know, any of my kids to experience that trauma. And I think, you know, it's kind of understated where people will say, you know, I don't, and this one that transcends financial resources. It transcends race, color, age, nationality, origin. This is one thing. That's lack of contact with your father. You know, you got rich kids. I mean, anybody who, if you don't have a relationship with your father, that's probably one of the most traumatizing things. And so I took that and folded that into, well, I ended up going to court because me and my, I'd say first baby mother, but it's true. And so they was like, it was a black judge. I remember his name right down here in Norfolk. He was like, well, you need to quit school and take care of your child. And I was like, okay. So, I left, college and, because I was bringing him to school. I was the kappa with the baby. I was like, he was with me wherever. And so I was like, okay, if I need to do that. So I quit school and actually I moved to DC. And when I came back to this area, I started working at an automobile factory. And they were telling me, and I still hadn't had my degree. And all my frat brothers, they did it right. 4 years, degrees, all those married, and I was like, man, why am I off the beaten path? And so from there, the job I had was working in an automobile factory. And I was like, who knew? It's like, automobile factory, I was always in sales. And so from that point, they were like, well, one of the benefits of working here is that you can get you can go to school. And I was like, man, you talking about like go to school like engineering or any kind of math where when the numbers turn into letters, I'm out. I mean, it's just stay a number, Yeah. Why you got to cross over and be A over B? I don't, why?
Yeah, just keep it simple.
Yeah, just stay a number, you stay in your lane letters, Yeah. And so when I did that, I was able to finish with my bachelor's degree, got my bachelor's, and so I was working in an automobile factory, and they gave me, I said, okay, I got my degree, can I go into management now? And, they were like, well, it's Norfolk State, we got University of Michigan over here, and Stanford over here, and, all these different colleges, Ohio State, and I was like, what? That's not right. And so I went back and got my master's, and they said, well, the master's is in communications. And so that's the master's of public relations that I got. So then I got the master's in public personnel, in personnel management. So I was like, surely y'all can use that. And then I come to the thing that that won't it. It wasn't the education. It was not the education. It was me and the perception. And I always remember that I joined the union from there. I started working for the union full time as the legislative director, and I did the newsletter, and all my talents were put to use. And I remember the union president told me, he said, you know what, man? He said, your problem is, he said, you're too black for the white people and too white for the black people. And I was like, man, how do I always... But anyway, so that's the story. I just, I walked into the Ford plant with no degrees and walked out with 3 degrees. And when they closed in Norfolk, they were like, well, you can go to Detroit. And at the time I was a single father, and I was like, Detroit public schools, Chesapeake public schools. And I was like, Detroit is not ready for my son, and he ain't ready for Detroit. So having had the education, I was like, I don't really have to go. Yeah. I was like, I could just stay here, so I remember, a lot of the guys on the assembly line were saying, why are you going to school, man? We got it made. And I was like, I didn't know at the time why I was going to school and then working 10 hours a day, but it paid off.
Yeah, dope. So yeah, man, that's interesting to just hear that whole story, and it leads up to Coastal Virginia Community Development, and then just the other things you have going on. So how did those things begin to manifest? And we could start with Coastal Virginia.
Okay, I look at it like Coastal Virginia, and it's the same thing, and it's almost like I bump my head a lot, and like trying to fit in, and I had a job with the city of Norfolk, and I was still trying to reach back, and we had programs that we did with the school. I was working for the public works department, and I would be in the meeting. It's like the largest department in the city, and I'll be in the meetings, and then I remember the director saying something one time because we had to vet the what the speakers were saying at the city council meetings, and they told me, well, he was telling the group, he said, yeah, I was at the city council meeting, and then it came to the soapbox portion of the meeting, and I'm sitting in there like the only black man, and I'm like, so when the citizens speak, it's the soapbox portions of the meeting, soapbox, and so. From there, I guess it just, I don't know. It's like almost like I had like a boss over me, and it felt like, I don't know if you ever watched the slave movies where they always running through, and try to get away. It's always running through. It's always water. It's always flashlights and dogs. But they're always running. So that's how I felt at work every day.
Oh gosh.
I felt like wow. They after me every single day. And so they try, certain things, and then, they say like almost like the me trying to avoid things, and the final stages of grief was acceptance. And it's one of the things I always I had to tell my sons. I didn't really tell my daughter, but I have 2 sons and a daughter. And when they got to a certain age, I didn't want to bust their bubble, but knowing what I had been through, and they was pretty much like me, have a good spirit and come in and like, yeah, and I said, yo, they're not gonna like you. And I didn't want to break his heart, but I had to, so he could kind of understand, look, they're not gonna like you. So we gotta kind of go and do it ourselves. And so that's where, if I wanted to help my people, my community, then I had to, I wasn't gonna do it through a city paycheck. I wasn't going to do it through, working for certain organizations. I had to, so, God spoke to me and said, look, I have placed more in you than so many people. I have granted you so many gifts. You cannot be afraid. So having that mindset, that's what I started Coastal Virginia Community Development. And I started it in mind to help the underserved communities of Hampton Roads, but I did it after probably exhausting, all the things I thought, and a lot of times everything I did was like trial and error. Sometimes it was more error than trial, but this is the way that it's forming. I recently just formulated a nonprofit by that same name. Because with everything going on with the pandemic and everything, then nonprofits were like the go-to. And I have I just finished looking at a property in Chesapeake where, I'm trying to have my dream is to have a school for young men that they put them into it's a school called Madison, which is like for the bad kids. But I looked at a property just on my way here, and it was a property and my dream is to have like when I want blue blazers, khakis, I want the little crest, you know what I mean? I want to destroy these myths about our young men. I want to just obliterate it and just say that they can. So that's kind of like how the nonprofit, the Coastal Virginia Community Development, and all those things kind of came about.
Okay, yeah, nice. Yeah, so I feel like that's gonna do wonders, especially now with everything being so I guess social media based and just community oriented. Like you said, destroying the myths. So also you have UnKut, formerly known as Unfiltered.
Yeah.
Bob Z UnKut Community Views. So you can speak on that a bit.
Yeah, this is a podcast that we're just going into the second season. Had to change the name from Unfiltered, but at the time I Googled it, it didn't come up. But Unfiltered is Roland Martin's podcast. And so I was like, well, I don't know. I don't want to, I can't call him up and say, hey, Roland, think you might want to change the name of your podcast because I'm starting one. And he was like, I didn't do it. So I changed it to UnKut. And what the aims of the podcast is to give it to you uncut version, because when I look at like the local media, I think like the right, alt-right or whatever they call them, the mainstream media, but I look at it, I call it the corporate media, because they have so many people. Like, for example, the gentleman that just got killed in Virginia Beach, right? And it's kind of like underground. Everybody knows, every single body that I've talked to, not every single, but everyone that the police that shot him knew him. They went to school together. You know, they've hung out together, and that's been buried.
Yeah.
That's been buried by the press. They won't even release the policeman's name. And I talked to a lady who wrote the story for the Virginia Pilot. I talked to two ladies from Channel 10, Channel 3, and they're saying, this is their excuse. Now listen, they said, we don't have affirmative or positive identification from the police department on who the policeman is. And so they said, so we're just not gonna do it. What? Where's your investigative reporting? I mean, so to me, and I think they mean well, but they just don't, they have, I guess they have to deal with their corporate. In this age of communications, I don't. I don't. So, you know, this guy's name, I got his name, you know, I can say allegedly just as well as the next man, but, you know, allegedly this is who this person is. And so, you know, from there, you know, that's the thing. And we got caught up last season with the trying to get rid of Donald Trump. So I think I had a lot more, you know, politicians and different people on than probably I'm going to have this season. I want to have some community leaders and some community people in the grassroots level. Also, and really, you know, it's just uncut, unfiltered. It's just being able to just talk and decipher issues that we have as a community in an open forum where we don't, like I said, we don't have to worry about the corporate spin or anything else. So, and it's been successful, and we're looking forward to this season.
Okay, yeah, nice. And that's all I got to commend you on. Just, you know, you have so many of those important people. So you've had the mayor of Norfolk, you've had a lot of people in just high positions, not even in government, but just the community and what they're doing. So, and I would also say you ask not the tough questions, not that you don't, but you also, or you not also, but I would replace the word tough with necessary, and just these are conversations that need to be had anyway.
Right. Yeah, well, I try to like when we had the Indian casino piece. You know, I wanted to, you know, get right into that because I found out that the tribe, you know, after I had you know, delved a little deeper into the issue, I found out that the tribe had racist origins. And so, like, well, we gotta say it. And then, I think we beat the mainstream media to the punch with that. And just different issues that affect people every day right now. You know, we're looking at, I have a big critic of the mainstream media, for example, and that's probably gonna be one of our opening pieces on the show, the whole, why does Soledad O'Brien, and I'm glad, I love Soledad, don't get me wrong, have to come down here from BET to do the story that we have, you know, 3 channels, 4 channels, and a newspaper. It made no sense to me. I was like, this is a bunch of corporate BS, you know, and so they have to, they have to step up to the plate because, you know, there's just certain things that they won't report. And so for me, you know, like I said, by not working, you know, can you imagine me working for the city of Norfolk right now and being able to say these things? And fortunately, which surprised me, I've had the mayor of Portsmouth, the mayor of Norfolk, you know, different people that come on in different places. I'm like, well, you know, y'all must like a brother or something, you know, because I mean, you know, you really have given my platform, they've given my platform, I don't want to say legitimacy, but I mean legitimacy that, you know, I know next week, next Monday, I'm interviewing the lieutenant governor candidate, Andrea McClellan. She's been on the show before. She was a city council person. I'm interviewing Jennifer McClellan, of no relation, but she's running for governor of the state, of the whole Commonwealth. So, you know, just trying to get those, I'm trying to take I don't want to say big information, but I'm trying to take information that's often skewed by the enormity of it and try to break it down and say, okay, this is the question. It's easy, it's plain, it's easy to understand, and that's kind of how the podcast is formulated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And how and you kind of touched on this just about you having the freedom to do and say what you want. So how important is ownership to you, especially in media?
It's super important. I had it's a story that and the brother meant well. One of my fraternity brothers, he's been very highly successful, and I was looking for and I still I have to go out and get my own sponsorship because I got I got to pay for it. And so he was like, I want to buy the show, and I'm like, that's the first time in my I was like, well, this show is not for sale, but. Like I said, he meant well. He wanted to help out, but I didn't want to just something that was my brainchild. I didn't want to just turn it over.
Yeah.
Now, if they was like, okay, you can control, you could keep creative control and those type of things, there might have been something else to consider. But it's like, well, I want to change this, and I want you to have a co-host, and I'm like,
right, yeah.
All right, whoa, good brother. Thank you. You know what I mean, but I'm just gonna, I guess, sleep better at night, just knowing that I did it the way I did it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, dope. And you said fraternity. You mentioned earlier Kappa. So you're a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
I am a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Yeah. Fraternity Incorporated. That's it. You got it.
Yeah. So how important is that bond and just that organization to you?
Oh wow! I've been this is my 37th year that I've been a member of Kappa, and I can honestly say that has been like one of the strongest forces. Our motto is achievement. That's our goal. It's achievement in every field of human endeavor, and so just knowing that. I mean, when I was coming through my 30s or 40s, and it's like, well, if the bottom just fell out. It's not a city I can't go to, and I got somewhere to stay. I got brothers that's gonna put me on my feet. It's like I'll never be in that position, and that was important. But I mean, a lot of people, join for different reasons. Mine was just strictly brotherhood, and at the time, I was coming from Huntersville down in Norfolk. And the Kappas of that day, a lot of them had like a different pedigree, so to speak. They were like coming from like generational wealth and everything. And I always was wondering, how can I get with these guys? They driving. One guy had a DeLorean. He had a DeLorean, and it was like, man, what in the world, And here I come, this little dusty boy from the neighborhood, but. They embraced me, and I learned a lot about the organization. They embraced me for who I was. And so even to this day, at one time I heard the big brothers when I was trying to play, they were like, we can have a hard time trying to civilize this one. But, they put, we put in the work, and, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about, not necessarily etiquette because, my mom, she ensured that we had, the proper etiquette and things. But I learned a lot about formal behavior in different, and I could go to the White House or I can go down here to Church Street, and that's the duality that, if you're a black man, so, the duality that, I think a lot of people forget about. We all speak not necessarily verbal, but we speak two different languages.
Yeah, versatility.
Yeah, right. Code switching is the formal term they've developed for it. So, that was the fraternity has meant a lot. A whole lot. So.
Okay. Yeah, and beyond that, another fraternity of sorts is HBCUs. So how important is that environment and you attending Norfolk State to you?
Man, it was crazy because I guess for me, high school was, fortunately, high school wasn't no school, period. I don't even remember. I've never not been on the honor roll. I mean, not nothing that I did study hard or nothing, but blessed. And so I thought the same thing going into college, and I'll be, we called it the block. I'll be out on the block, kicking it, chasing girls, all that kind of thing. And the teachers will walk right up to you. "Won't you in my class?" And I was like, whoa, we in college, you know? And they would ignore that. They would ignore that. And so I was like, that kind of level. I even spent a little time recruiting for Norfolk State. And for people to understand the history behind these schools, when you look at our nursing department, we had to have an HBCU nursing department because nobody would take care of us but us. We had to have a social work department because nobody would see to our mental health and well-being but us. Black businesses. I mean, these schools develop out of a necessity, not out of a just because we want to stay to ourselves. But the nurturing is the biggest difference because I've graduated from PWIs, which are predominantly white institutions, and I've graduated from HBCUs. So the difference is the nurturing that you receive beyond your tuition and fees that you pay. So, they kind of throw that in for free. And it's meant the world to me.
Nice, okay. Yeah, it's definitely that environment that fosters just community, it's like a family, really. But also, with the development going on in Virginia and you having these conversations with leadership, how you feel about the progress that Virginia as a whole is making, and especially Norfolk as well?
To your question, and it's funny because people, they think I'm kidding. I'm like, man, we should catch more politicians wearing blackface because, man, when Northern survived the whole blackface scandal, we've done more in the last 4 years. I mean, as far as becoming progressive, and Northern's like, they were like, I remember they were trying to legalize marijuana, and they said, okay, in 2024, it's going to be legal. Northern was like, nah, July. I mean, then all the other things is that, that he's progressively done as far as, that would benefit the African-American community. And I think it's just the mindset, now it's like, we good, you know what I mean? It's like, really, and I know, it's like at one time, politically, Northern Virginia would go blue. Richmond, after they went blue. But down here, man, we had to drag Chesapeake and Virginia Beach across the finish line because, but now finally, they gone blue. I mean, a lot of people don't know that Chesapeake is the largest African-American suburb in Hampton Roads as far as suburban wealth for African-Americans. But here in Norfolk, it's still too much of a good old boy system. It's still too much of a good old boy system. Things that we can't count on. I mean, I don't want to say like black issues, but I mean black issues. The people who are in office right now that are black don't cater to the neighborhood, don't cater to the community. And that's the thing that's the most disheartening thing to me is that, when I see, let's say economic development, I mean, they put a lot into downtown. They got the main, they got, different things. They redid Waterside, but you might, I don't see any economic development in the hood. For example, if you want to take the Lafayette Boulevard corridor, which is right off Lafayette and Tidewater, that should be economically developed. 35th Street should be economic. We don't want to hand out, we want to hand up. But we don't have the leadership. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, is that the people who are elected, right now in the predominantly black wards, they will vote on stuff, but I can't think of an original idea or a proposal that any of them have had. So I mean, it's almost like if you are afforded the opportunity, let's say if you're afforded the opportunity to be elected to something, then you gotta have, that's my pet cause. Like with President Obama, we knew healthcare was his baby, right off the bat. We knew that because that's something that, But I mean, any elected official that you have that you voting for somebody that's city council person, or you voting for somebody that's a legislator, state legislator, a delegate, or a state senator, you should be able to say, well, yeah, that's the person that's against mass incarceration. Or what is your pet? What is your pet cause? What do you believe in? It's got to be something number one. I challenge any of you who are reviewing this to go up to whoever represents you in your area. Think about it. You can Google it. Just say, who's my delegate, or who's my candidate? Who do I vote for? And that list will come up. You should be able to go through that list and say, okay, this person stands for that. This person stands for increasing black business. This person stands for our schools should be this. It should be something that we know you stand for. And that's what's missing in Norfolk. We don't know what they stand for, only just trying to stay in office. This city, Portsmouth is way more progressive than Norfolk. This city voted, the leaders of the city did not want to go to November elections. That was my pet peeve, because it's voter suppression. We get on Georgia and all these other states and say, well, you can't keep the vote down, but they wanted to keep having the vote in May. To keep, so the lower amount of people favors the incumbent. So they wanted this city here wanted to keep those numbers down. Mm-hmm. And so I went to everybody on city council. And the only person on city council is Andrea McClellan. She was on my show. And she said she's for November elections. I mean, it's the progressive thing to do. It makes no sense that, anybody that's, they proclaim to be Democrats, proclaim to be progressive, but they don't want to have November elections. So that blew my mind. I'm like, this is like crazy. I don't even believe you stand here and say this in public, that you want to keep the elections in May. And so they were saying, well, we don't want to confuse the issues. I'm like, man, that's an insult to your constituency. Like, we can't decipher what's what's this issue for local, this issue for state. And so it was horrible. So that's kind of like, I guess, a roundabout way of just letting you know some of the things that really get under my skin. Yeah. When it comes to our politicians in my home city.
And then we can expect to hear more from on UnKut.
Definitely. We kind of going after it. Let you in on a secret. First time I've said it publicly, exclusive. But last year, some of the stuff I didn't go as hard on some of the candidates as I wanted to, because I was just starting out and I was like, I don't want to offend my first year out, and not be able to get guests, but I'll take the gloves off this year. It's like, I've established something. And I don't have any misgivings about it. Sometimes, I kept it 100, but some of the stuff, I think sometimes I want to say, stop lying. While I'm interviewing, a little bit. You lying, I know you lying. But I kind of let a couple go, not many, but this year we're going full force.
Okay. Yeah, so and it makes sense with the from the unfiltered to UnKut. It just sounds a little more. Yeah.
Yeah. So we I won't think people to tell you I was thinking about liquor, but I won't, man. It's like I know it's like don't cut it. But no, I was just thinking about the content of you have, because I feel like some of the things that were like, that I didn't know was not true until like maybe after the show, but it was a situation I was like, wow, I should have pressed. And so it's a learning experience. And a lot of people don't want to talk about, they tell us don't say what they did wrong, but tell people things that we could have done better, So, but I don't have it's a learning experience, and I've developed some techniques and different thought processes as far as how we can make it better. And then, the next season I want to make it better than that. So,
can't wait to just hear and see what you have coming with that. I appreciate you coming out to talk with us today. Yeah, so we got Bob Z, you know, UnKut season 2, or you can say season 1.
No, we're gonna call it season 2. We just
Season 2, okay.
just changing the name a little bit, but we're gonna keep it season 2.
All right, cool.
Yep. Thank you for having me, and I know I probably talked all your bites out of you.
Oh no, this is perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we could go on and go on, but you know, we can say that for episode 2 with you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Drew.
Yeah, appreciate you.
All right.